Vasudevaya. 7th canto, 15th chapter, 30th verse. Yaschitta vijaye yattaha syannihi shango aparigraha eko vivikta sharano bhikshur bhaikshya mitashanaha. Oh, do you have? I don't know. Okay. 7, 15, 30. Okay, I'll just.
30? Yashchita vijaye yataha.
Chitta vijaye yataha.
Yan nishango parigrava.
Anishango parigraha.
Eko vivikta sharado. Bhikshur bhakshya mitashana.
Bhikshur bhaikshya mitashanaha. Anybody?
Yashchita
Vijaya yattaha Syanihi sango aparigraha Eko vivikta sharano Bhikshur mitashanaha.
Yashchita vijaye yataha. Syannishango parigraha. Eko vivikta sharano. Bhikshur bhaikshya mitasanaha.
Okay, what meaning? Yaha, one who. Chitta vijaye, conquering the mind. Yattaha, is engaged. Syat, must be. Nihisangaha, without contaminated association. Aparigraha, without being dependent on the family. Ekaha, alone. Vivikta sharanaha, taking shelter of a solitary place. Bhikshuhu, a renounced person. Bhaikshaya, by begging alms just to maintain the body. Mitashanaha, frugal in eating. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One who desires to conquer the mind must leave the company of his family, live in a solitary place, free from contaminated association. To maintain the body and soul together, he should beg as much as he needs for the bare necessities of life. It's a beautiful verse. Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Actually, we usually say it.
Oh yeah, I forgot, yeah. One who desires to conquer the mind must leave the company of his family and live in a solitary place, free from contaminated association. To maintain the body and soul together, he should beg as much as he needs for the bare necessities of life. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is the process for conquering the agitation of the mind. One is recommended to take leave of his family and live alone, maintaining body and soul together by begging alms and eating only as much as needed to keep himself alive. Without such a process, one cannot conquer lusty desires. Sannyas means accepting life of begging, which makes one automatically very humble and meek and free from lusty desires. In this regard, the following verse appears in Shruti literature. Dvanda hatasya garhasthayam dhyana bhangadi karanam lakshayitva grahi spashtam sanyaset avicharayan. In this word of duality, family life is a cause that spoils one's spiritual life or meditation. Especially understanding this fact, one should accept the order of sannyas without hesitation. It's a pretty heavy verse. Anyway. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswatdeve Gurvani Prachar Nirvisheshanavati Pashanti Ishtarine Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anyway, quite bewildering verse, isn't it? Don't you leave your family? That's what this verse advises. The point of this verse is how to conquer the mind. That's what he begins. Yes, chitta vijaya yataha. Chitta in Sanskrit, this word chitta, which is in Sanskrit, this means mind. Sometimes it means mind. Sometimes it might refer to mind and intelligence and false ego all together. Sometimes it's together. Sometimes in general ways, chitta also refers to heart, isn't it? Because we feel everything in the heart. But the idea is to conquer your mind. That's right. If mind is conquered, everything else is conquered. And that's what is the instruction for civilized human beings. That's what I was talking yesterday. A human being is a human if he has controlled his mind. Now, what do we mean by controlling our mind? By controlling our mind means we are not pushed and pulled by our reflexes. Sometimes we do not know what we are doing. Sometimes we know what we are doing, but we can't help it out. And we know that's wrong. So most of us are pushed and pulled by reflexes, our desires, like hunger, sleep, thirst. We don't really think about it when we want to fulfill these desires. And that's called reflex, animalistic life. But a wise man, a human, knows how to control them, how to stop them when required, and how to exercise them when required. We don't want to stop eating and sleeping and other desires. You can't stop it, because if you suppress your desires forcefully, then you become sick. That's all. Your body has some desires, isn't it? You want to eat, you feel hungry. If you don't supply food to the body, if it feels hungry, then you get diseases. Then you get acidity or whatever, so on and on. So, scriptures advise to control unnecessary desires and not those desires which are necessary for sustenance of body. And actually, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, Narad Muni says, what's that? Jivasya tattva jigyasa labho jive tayavata. There's a verse, first canto, second chapter. Kamasya na indriya priti labho jive tayavata. Sukadeva Goswami says, one should never live his life to fulfill his sense gratificatory desires. But one should maintain a healthy life to fulfill the mission of life, that is love of God. So now here's a point. How do we understand that a body is craving. Craving? You all got the craving? The body has craving. The mind is craving, or the body really needs something. Now that's a very difficult thing, because sometimes you might feel to eat something, but then how do you know that that's a craving or really the need, your hunger of the body? You see, that's a line there. How do you figure out that? Because Bhagavatam says, don't fulfill your cravings, but always fulfill the needs of the body. But how to differentiate? Sometimes you have craving for sleeping, but maybe the body doesn't need that. And so you have to stop that craving. But how to distinguish? That's the point there. Any idea how to distinguish? And because if we don't distinguish, then we don't know what to stop and what not to stop. And sometimes you see in a movement or anywhere, in any spiritual institutions, people like to do austerities. And this verse is mentioning about that. Austerities, begging, and so many things. But then in the process of doing austerities, they start suppressing their bodily needs and not just cravings. And people become unhealthy. And many of our senior devotees, they have become unhealthy because of this, because of not knowing the difference between craving and the need of the body. So how to do that? It's a good question, isn't it? We all want to stop cravings, and that's nectar of instruction. Vacho vegam manasa. Craving in Sanskrit is called vega. Vague. But the needs of body, they are very different. So how do you do that? There's a very good what do we say? Advice for this. And the advice is, if you feel hungry, and how do you know our mind is craving or body wants? The idea is, if you feel hungry and if you feel weak, then this means you should eat. Because there is a symptom in the body, weakness. But if you're feeling hungry, if you're not feeling weak, then that means that's a craving of the mind. It is not coming from the body. Body is not talking to you. Because if body talks to you, then you should feel weak also. If body feels weak, it will say, yes, give me food. But now the body is not feeling weak. So this mind is saying, and not the body is saying. What mind says, that's craving. What body speaks, that's real need. But that's difficult to understand in a mind. In a mind, we have three voices, by the way. And only a wise man with eyes of knowledge, Pashyanti Jnana Chakshusha, he can discriminate. The three voices is the voice of body, the voice of mind, and the voice of Supersoul, God. But you know what, we are so confused in this word, our mind is not controlled, so we can't really distinguish what's what. The voice of God is generally called as intuition. Intuition? Intuition? How do you say intuition? Intuition? She can't understand.
Inclusion.
No. Intuition. Okay. Oh, really? Yeah. Sometimes it's a different way of speaking. Yeah. Intuition. Yeah. Okay. Intuition. Or maybe you call it sixth sense. Some people call it sixth sense. That's the voice of God. And the voice of mind is called as craving. That's craving basically. The voice of body is called as physical needs. So we have to distinguish in all these three, otherwise we can make a mess of our life. We can spoil our health, or we can unnecessarily engage in some mysticism. I'm hearing the voice of God, but it's a voice of mind, isn't it? It can really be confusing. That's why all scriptures advise to control your mind. If you don't control your mind, you can't listen properly. And then we end up spoiling our life, especially in devotion. Yat chitta vijaya yattaha. Okay, so you have to control your mind. Now that's settled. Otherwise you can't discriminate between these three vices. But then how to control it? That's a big question. That's the agenda. How to control mind. That's the most difficult thing. Even for gods, it is said. Even gods or demigods, they fail to control their mind. What to talk of small humans like us. Why? Because Krishna says to Uddhav, mind is having the power of God. Or actually Krishna goes one step further. Krishna says mind is like God. In fact, in Gita he goes further. He says, I am mind. Among all senses I am mind, isn't it? Krishna says, how can you handle it? It's God. It's a manifestation of God. You can't do anything. Can you stop time? Can anybody stop time?
No.
Even if you try very, 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 very hard, you can't. Why? Because time is God. Kalo asmi. So how can you think that you can stop mind? How can you even think in your dreams that you can control your mind? It's impossible. Just like we can't control time. We don't know even how to do it. We even don't know what is time, by the way, according to science. Krishna says, I am time. Okay, so how to do that? But there is a system. If Krishna is mind, we understand that, then only Krishna can tell how to control it. Isn't it? Because only Krishna can tell how to control himself. Nobody else. Just like Bhishma Pitama is there, isn't it? Bhishma Pitama? Bhishma, you know Bhishma, no? Yeah, Bhishma Pitama, Bhishma. He was in Mahabharata. So the point is, he got a boon that he will never die. Or he can choose a willful death. Whenever he wants to die, he'll die, otherwise he'll not die. So people were very worried because Pandavas and Krishna were in this team and Bhishma was in the opposite team and he was fighting against them and you can't kill him. That's a big problem because if he doesn't die, you can't defeat the enemy. So what to do? So these Pandavas, they approached Krishna. What to do? Krishna said, okay, you want to kill him? You need to know how to kill him. And the best person to know how to kill him is he himself. You go and ask him. And then Pandava says, well, if we ask him, why will he tell the secret of his death? Why is he going to tell? Why anybody is going to tell that? Krishna told, no, you go and ask him. Because he is a gentleman. The qualification of a gentleman is he will never refuse anybody's request. That is Mahabharata. You see, I told the other day, if you read this book Mahabharata, at least you will become a human. He will never say no if you request him. He will do his best to fulfill your request. Maybe today, maybe later, but he will not say no. He can postpone it, will not say no. So just like there was a Buddhist, Nagarjuna. So you have heard his name, Nagarjuna? Come on.
No.
He was a famous Buddhist. Whole Buddhism is framed. The foundation of Buddhism is laid by this person, Nagarjuna. Very famous Buddhist. He lived for 800 years. And this is just 2000 years back. That's all. Maybe even after that. Just recent history. He's a historical figure. He's not a mythological figure. You go on Google, he's there. And he lived for 800 years because he was a chemist and he invented a medicine to increase his life. They are medicines. So he was not dying. And the problem was, he used to give this medicine to the king. And the king was also not dying. And the king doesn't die, and the queen dies, and his child dies, and the king marries again. There's a new queen and new child, and again the queen dies, and again the child dies, and the king marries again. And that's how he married 6-7 times, and children, and then they die. But then the 7th time he married, and he got a child. The queen thought, my God, we'll also die. And this king doesn't die. The problem is if queen dies and the prince dies, the queen was in a lot of anxiety. My child will never become a king because this king doesn't die. What to do with this? So they were thinking what to do. The only solution was to stop that medicine. If king doesn't take the medicine, he dies. But that can't happen if Nagarjuna is alive, because he's making the medicine. So the only solution is to kill Nagarjuna. But that's impossible because nobody can see him. By his medicines, by his science of Rasayanam, he made himself invisible. So it's an impossible task, mission impossible. So what to do? So queen came up with a conclusion. She said, see, Nagarjuna is a gentleman. And if you ask him any request, he will never say no. So she asked Prince to go to him and request him to give his life. And Prince thought, this is illogical. If you ask somebody's life, they're not going to give it. It's crazy. The queen told, no, we know Nagarjuna. He's a perfect gentleman. So this prince goes and he asks Nagarjuna, I have a request. Nagarjuna said, yes. He said, I want your life. Nagarjuna said, well, you requested, I am ready. But the problem is, if I die, your father dies. But then the prince was thinking in his mind, well, that's the whole point there. So actually, he actually gave up his life. Even in Bhagavatam, so there was a king, Yadu Maharaj. Yadu. And he asked his 5 sons to exchange his old age. Yeah. Actually, Yati. There was a king, Yati. He became very old, but he wanted to enjoy, he wanted to become young. So he asked his children to exchange his old age. It was possible that time. So his 4 children, they denied. The 5th one, Puru, his name was Puru, he agreed to exchange. And Bhagavatam says, because he was a gentleman, he couldn't deny the request, especially when his father is asking, and he accepted the old age. So you see the point. That's how our civilization was, Vedic civilization. That's a gentleman. But here's the point. The point is, only a controlled mind can be a gentleman. You can't be a gentleman without a controlled mind, because somebody requesting your life, you can't say yes if your mind is not controlled. You will panic, isn't it? Somebody comes, I want your life. Your first reaction is get a revolver and shoot him. That's all. What is this person? It's so dangerous person. So how to control that? The question is, we can't control, but nevertheless, Krishna gives a secret. You see, that's the point. If Krishna is mind, and you have to control mind, that means you want to control Krishna, better ask him. And he is a gentleman of all gentlemen. He'll tell you. He even will tell you how to control him. And that is, by the way, devotion, isn't it? So that's what he's saying. Now, in this paragraph, he says, okay, if you want to control mind is me, that means you want to control me. There's just one way, devotion. There is no way. But what is devotion? Now, here is a point. Now, devotion has 2 parts. One is internal, one is external. One is action, one is feelings, isn't it? Devotion. One is going inside our head. Feelings, attitude, emotions. One is external activities which we are doing. Both are important. Just like sports. Sports has 2 parts. One is external, he's running, he's doing so many things. But one is internal. Internal, he has a passion to achieve the goal, isn't it? There are 2 things going on. So that is technically called as antarang and bahirang in Sanskrit. Antarang means internal, bahirang means external. Both are important, by the way. External activities nourish internal feelings. Is it? Just like, for example, in a class, you are all sitting like this. Now your posture will actually define your feelings inside your heart. And it's very important. That's anyway, you are all sitting on chair, but that's okay. But it's very important in Vedic culture. When a person speaks, the students should sit down on the lower level. Then the knowledge transfers, because when they sit on the lower level, there's a respect, isn't it? That feeling of respect, and then there can be transmission of knowledge. So posture, externalities help us to cultivate our feelings, and the feelings the feelings in turn define the actions. What you feel, that you act. Am I right? Defines the action. So just like, for example, like so many Westerners, when they come to ISKCON, they are asked to pay obeisances to Krishna, and then we do like that. Many Westerners do not know what's this. In many places in Europe, like, okay, they do like this, but they don't get a feeling of praying by doing this, isn't it? Huh? Yeah, respect. So yeah, because you are trained in that, you get the feeling. But many people who do not know what is this, they can do this, but they don't get the feeling, the counter feeling with that. They don't get it.
It coincides with namaste.
Of course, we all know as a devotee now. But the point is, if you keep on doing like this again and again, then you get the feeling. If you keep on doing like this.
The feeling sometimes comes when you do that, because sometimes you don't feel like have a feeling.
Of course, yeah. The actions help you to nurture your feelings. If you do like this again and again, then you, okay, yes, I have to go down, isn't it? So that, yeah.
Well, that's why often psychologists use cognitive. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Cognitive behavior therapy.
Yeah, you're right.
Because
you're right.
your behavior will follow.
Absolutely.
And whatever your mental thought is.
Absolutely. Actually, psychology began with the study of soul. That's psychology. Psyche means soul. But then the point is, they saw that you can't see the soul. So what do? Then it became science of mind. But mind also you can't see. Then it became science of behavior. That's what Watson and all these people, Skinner and Watson. So they came to understand cognitive behavioral psychology, that behavior affects mind and mind affects behavior. So if you work on your behavior, you can modulate your mind. That's all the idea. This verse is talking about that. Now this verse is saying, okay, if you want to control mind, okay, you want to control mind and the feelings, so modulate your behavior and your lifestyle, and it will impact your mind. So devotion also accompanies with external behavior. Now how should we behave in devotion? That's the idea. So fine, we have chanting, we have deities and other things, but what about a life? What about an ordinary life? What should we do with that? And that's what Narad Muni is coming. What you should do with it. In temple, pretty much you know what you do. But what about life? Because every action has equal and opposite reaction. It will impact your mind. Even there's a whole science of posture, by the way, in Vedas, which is called as physiognomy. You have heard this term? Yeah.
Physiognomy.
Yeah.
Study of the bodily features.
Yeah, study of bodily features and the posture. So the way you stand, that will actually define in what mode your mind is. Passion, ignorance, goodness, the way you sit, the way you lie down, the way you talk, the way you put your hands, the way you put your legs, everything is impacting your mind. Everything. So that science helps you to actually to behave in such a way so that your mind is in mode of goodness. Now what to do with the life? So Narad Muni advises, Syan nihisango aparigraha. What to do? External things. If you want to control mind, Syat means in Sanskrit must be. Prabhupada translates must be. You should do this. There's no option. Narad Muni says, what I am saying, you should do this. You can't decide not to do it. There's no option. Maybe not. No, do it. What you should do? Nihisanga. Nihisanga is a word used in Bhagavad Gita also. Sangha means association. Nihisanga means no association. So Narada Muni advises, don't take contaminated association. Don't put yourself in contaminated association. Now what do you mean by contaminated association? That's the question. So, if in one line you want to define what is contaminated association, Mahaprabhu gives the examples of that, but if you want to define it, any association which makes you forget Krishna, that's contaminated. So suppose if you meet a very, 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 very nice man or a woman, and if in an association you forget God, that is contaminated association. Although by materialistic terms, that person is very, 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 very nice, soft-spoken, polite. We meet many people, isn't it? They are very nice people. But if you forget Krishna in the association, it's contaminated. Because the worst thing you can do in life is forgetting God. In fact, scripture says, there's a verse in Hari Bhakti Vilas, forgetting God is worse than death. A devotee can choose death, but not choose to forget God. That's a real devotee. Because he's in love with God. That's all. So that's contaminated association. So we should not associate with anybody who makes us forget God. Okay, so if you want to make a list, who makes you forget God? Okay, make a list. Okay, tick, 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 tick. Okay, one of my, in jobs, that person is there, he disturbs my mind. Well, I don't want to associate with him or her much. What is needful I'll do, but that's okay. What's the first thing you will write in that list?
What is the first thing?
If you want to make a list of your own personal list, this person association in my life is making me forget God and disturbing me. What's the first you will write on that list? The first name.
Donald Trump.
No, we even don't think about him much. Nobody cares about him.
Personal. It's a personal list.
Yeah, it's a personal list.
Well, I mean, he just
what's the first thing? You can put his name below. What's the first? Maya. Okay, I can accept that, but there is something more dangerous than Maya. Can you think about that?
More dangerous than Maya.
Yeah. And if we can figure out that,
not seeing Maya,
we are out of illusion. Actually, to think that Maya is the only dangerous thing, that's illusion, by the way. Maya is not problem. That's again illusion. I'll tell you why. But there's much more dangerous, much more dangerous person.
Is it lust?
No, lust is a word.
Yeah.
Myself.
I'm asking who. I'm not asking what.
Myself.
Yes.
I was just going to say that.
We ourselves are the greatest enemy of our own self. If we can realize this fact, the most dangerous person in this world for me is me. That's all. Then you are out of illusion. And we have to realize this fact sooner or later. We ourselves are harming ourselves, isn't it? Nobody is harming us. Even Maya is also not harming us. And Prabhupada gives this example. Maya is like police, isn't it? So is police harmful? No. Police.
Oh,
Police. I don't know. It's a different accent here. It's a little different. Police. Yeah.
It took me at least 10 years to learn that word here.
Oh, really? Police. Okay, fine, police. So what do you do about that? Is it dangerous? No. They're standing on the roads and we don't fear. Only criminals fear. For criminals it is dangerous. Not for everybody. If you are a sane person, if you follow laws, that's okay. So for criminal, because criminal himself is dangerous. That is why this police, it is problem for him. So because we are dangerous, that is why Maya appears dangerous to us. You see the point? If we are okay, Maya will appear as a friend. For a normal civilian, police, this police is a friend, isn't it? So whenever there is a police, we feel secure. If you are okay. So that's the point. The first thing you would write is you yourself. And that is why Bhaktivedanta Thakur sings a song and he says, the perfection of life is to disown yourself. If you get the point. Ami to amar nahi nath. Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, a point has come in my life where I do not belong to myself. My I belongs to God. Disown yourself. In other words, disowning oneself means a perfect devotee. He will not free will. He will not initiate his will, which is something separate from Krishna's will. Okay, you can understand. We generally start willing something which is actually not as same as God. Krishna wants something and we start wanting something else. And that's the problem. And that means disowning oneself. A devotee is very careful that he doesn't want anything which is not in align with the wanting of Krishna. That's disowning oneself. And that's the perfection of life. And that is called as love. When your will and Krishna's will unites. And that is actually in devotional terms called you become one with God. Generally Mayavadi says you become one with God, you merge in Him, isn't it? But that's wrong. We don't merge in God, but we become one in God in our wanting, in our willing. What He wants, we want. What He doesn't want, we don't want. Who are His friends? They are our friends. Who are His enemies? They are our enemies. Whom He opposes, we oppose. Whom He serves, we serve. That's called as love. Simple. It's simple. It's a simple definition of love. So that's called as Narada Muni advice. You should always be without contaminated association. Don't listen to yourself. Yeah, that's the first thing. Anything you do, anything you think, listen to the advice of scriptures and Krishna and do that. Don't listen to yourself. That's the first thing. Don't do that. Otherwise, we'll never advance in devotion. Never. We come up with crazy ideas, crazy things, and we harm ourselves. That is nisanga. That's a very good advice, isn't it? And the next advice is aparigraha. Aparigraha means without being dependent on the family. Actually, aparigraha, this word, all these words comes in Gita. And it's repeated here. Aparigraha means without family. Or without being dependent on the family. So for sannyasi and brahmachari, for us, people like us, monks, we are advised to be without any family. But for householders, it's not possible. You have a family and you have to be with the family. And so that's advised, you should not be dependent on the family. There are two things, isn't it? Now, dependent on the family means we should not be dependent on the family for what? I mean to say, you need money and sometimes you're dependent on, kids are dependent on parents for financial needs. So sometimes it's required, but that's not the point. That's not the point here. We should not be dependent on the family for emotional support. There's a financial support, there's an emotional support, isn't it? Our whole system of emotional support is Krishna. That's all. For the family, we are doing our duty. That's all. We are there with the family, they are with us because of karmas in this life. In this life, somehow we happen to be with them, and they happen to be with us. Neither they are ours, neither we are theirs. We are all spirit souls. We know that. We have all met in this life, our family members, just like some pieces of wood, they meet in an ocean and then separate. The two waves, they meet and then separate. That's all we are. That's all spirituality is. So yes, we do our duty, but emotionally we look up to Krishna. If we want to have emotional support, yeah, He is your friend. He is everything for us. We don't share our emotional support, emotions with anybody in this world except God. And devotees, of course. And devotees. That's all. Because if you start sharing your emotions with anybody, then you will have a problem. You will become attached to that person. You become attached to that person, then you have to come back in this world. That's all. Nobody wants. Yeah.
What if your family is all devotees?
What do you appear?
Your family is all devotees.
Yeah, if your family is devotees, then that's okay. Because you can be attached to devotees. But in general, no, it's only Krishna. Only Krishna. That's how that love demands. You see, love demands that. Your girlfriend or boyfriend will demand you should love me and nobody else, isn't it? This happens, no? And sometimes people shoot. Sometimes the girlfriend finds that boyfriend is loving somebody else and she can't tolerate. And she says, if you can't love me, you can love nobody. Okay, finish. It is there, no? Yeah, there are so many movies like that. Love cannot tolerate anybody else. That's love. That's a strong love. Krishna loves us. He wants us to love Him. And you know, by the way, why we die? You know why we die? Why?
So many reasons.
No, but what's the main reason?
We have to retake.
No, why we die? Yeah, it's all connected to what I'm telling. You know why?
Without love, we die.
Because Krishna wants us to love Him and only Him. And Krishna says, if you can't be mine, you cannot be nobody else. No, you are with me. Because He loves us. He loves us. We can't even imagine how much He loves us. And He wants us to be with Him. Because He knows if we are with Him, we will be happy. You know what? God, Krishna is so nice. How much bliss He has. How much bliss He has in Himself. Infinite, isn't it? And He wants to share that bliss with us, by the way. Because He loves us, He wants to share with us. But to share the love He has with us, we have to love Him in the same proportion He loves us. And that's relationship. Otherwise, He can't share that. So He mercifully wants to share that infinite bliss. And you can imagine, even if He shares a point of that infinite bliss with us, we can't even hold it in our soul. It's impossible. That's what He wants. That's His mercy. That's His mercy all about. So the second thing is aparigraha. Don't be dependent on any person in this world for your emotional support. Emotional support is with Krishna. If you want to cry, cry with Krishna. If you want to be happy with God. Prabhupada says, if you want to enjoy with Krishna. Why do you want to enjoy separately? So our life, our sorrow, our happiness, it's all Krishna. That's all. If you want to die, ask Krishna. Don't die without asking Him. Seriously, yeah. There was a saint.
Does this apply only to a parent with a small child?
Yeah.
They cannot have this same relationship with Krishna because the love of the child is so important.
No, that's okay. We can love the child. If you're a mother, you're supposed to love child, and you will love child. You can't avoid loving the child. That's impossible.
How does that
But that's okay. Oh, okay, I understand your point. You know what happens? It is not natural to not love the child. You got the point? It is very natural to love any child because child is a lovable object. But the point, even our family members, isn't it? We are staying with them and we are exchanging relationship. Any person you keep on start staying, you will develop little love. It's impossible to do that. The idea here is not to stop that love, but to make this love so strong that that love looks insignificant in front of that love. That's how it goes.
If it has to do with attachment I'm wondering if it has to do with attachment to outcomes.
Attachment to?
What happens?
Outcomes?
The outcome. Because I think one could learn to love without attachment, but I mean, I know you're saying love requires total love in return.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay, fine. I'll explain you. It's not that saints are hard-hearted. That's not the point.
I don't think hard-hearted.
Yeah. So saints are very compassionate. Now the point is, when Scripture says you should only love God and direct all your love to Him, it's not that we forget about the entire world and there's no relationship with any person and there's no love, absolutely no love there. It's not like that. In a very literal sense, we say this. But you know what happens? Why Krishna wants all your love? Because when you love Him, He will share His love with you. When He shares His love with you, that infinite love, then you can't hold it. Then you can't hold it in yourself. Hold?
What did you say?
I said,
the whole sentence.
I said, if God shares His love with you, that infinite love, then you'll not be able to hold that infinite love in your finite soul. And then it overflows. And then it goes to everybody. That's how it should be.
Impersonal. Impersonal.
Impersonal?
No,
Well, it sounds to me impersonal, as if it emanates from you because you have
okay.
love.
Okay, in that sense you are saying, in that sense. Okay, fine. Yeah. So in that sense, fine. So that's how it goes. We are trying to love people without God. Krishna says you love me and then you start loving everybody. Automatically.
So in another one of Bhaktivedanta Thakur's songs, because Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he had a large family. He took care of everyone. But in another one of his songs, he talks about, I have this family, I have this house, but I take care of it because it's yours, Krishna.
Like that, yeah.
So Krishna, these family members, they're your family members. I'm taking care of them because they're yours.
Because it is said you can't truly love anybody without loving God.
If
That's
our
right.
love for Krishna is supposed to be personal, so our love for others, I think, would be personal.
Yeah, it becomes personal on the level of spirit soul and not on the level of body. So it switches. Now our love is at the level of body because neither of the person knows he is not spirit soul. There is no connection with Supreme Spirit. There is no connection with Supreme Spirit. So we don't know we are spirit. But then when we start loving God, the connection is from soul to soul because he is super soul. And then that is true love. And then when we start loving others, it is on the platform of soul and not body. And that's a difference. And then it's personal. Do you understand? Then now it makes sense. And then you start loving everybody, not just humans. Even animals, even trees, even birds, because it's at the level of soul. That Prabhupada says that. In his books, Prabhupada says, you see all these civilizations, they are slaughtering animals. Slaughtering animals, And they say, we love everybody, but what's this love all about? Why they are slaughtering animals? Because their love is on bodily platform. It's very superficial. This kind of love at the level of body, it's very superficial and not at all satisfying. You see the point, how we go there? That's why Krishna says, you love me. And in the process, you start loving everybody. Are you clear for that? Why?
I think it works both ways.
No.
Loving people can lead to loving Krishna.
It doesn't work really both ways, because it doesn't work like that, because if you simply love humans and not God, loving people can lead to love of God. That's what you're saying. It doesn't really work that way, because when we love people without understanding that we are spirit souls, then it becomes very complex.
I can accept that.
Yeah, that's how it happens. Okay, so that is aparigraha. Don't be dependent on people, and we should be dependent on God. And then we start really helping people, others. So, aparigraha eko vivikta sharano. And the third thing is, Narad Muni mentions, vivikta sharano. Vivikta means to live alone. But Prabhupada defines, living alone doesn't mean living alone, because you are never alone. There's one person, one thing is always with you, your mind. If you think we are alone, that's illusion. The mind is there, mind speaking. You're never alone. To think we are alone, it's an illusion. But then Narad Muni advises, you should be alone. So how should do that? How to do that? Now we can't take out a mind, isn't it, and throw it away. But the advice is you should always be alone. So how to do that? How to do that trick? So the trick is, we should be, Prabhupada advises, we should be with wise people or devotees. Devotees? If you are in association of devotees, you are practically alone. Why? Because when you are in association, your mind is suspended. Just like you are now listening to my lecture, your mind is not thinking anything, isn't it? You are focusing on me. When you go alone, then you start thinking something. Am I clear? So if you are in association with some people, good people, you are absorbed in their thoughts, not in your own thoughts. Because you are impressed by their behavior and their thoughts and their talks. So then you become alone, because you get free of your mind. And that's called loneliness. When you are free of your mental talks and cravings and ideas, then you are alone. That's called alone. So that's why it mentions Vivikta Sharano, be alone, or be in association of devotees. So the point, you see the point here, even if we are with devotees and we are absorbed in ourselves, then we are not alone. Then that principle doesn't work, by the way. That is why it is said, if you are with devotees, you should always have substance talks. Substance talks, do you understand? Talk with substance. Otherwise it will be very superfluous, and then people will be thinking of themselves, and the whole purpose of association is lost. Whole purpose is lost. So that is called alone. Vivikta Sharano. That means that comes to ourselves also. If we are giving association, we should behave in such a way that people are really that people are absorbed in talks of Krishna, and our behavior actually helps them, induces remembrance of Krishna in them. Actually, Srila Prabhupada says, a devotee should be such that even by seeing him, people remember God. He doesn't need even to talk. That's the perfection of devotion. Srila Prabhupada was like that. Many people who met him, they saw him, he didn't even talk to them, they just saw him and they remembered God. That was the power. Srila Prabhupada says, a real devotee is a person, if he walks on the road and somebody is standing on the 4th floor and he sees, oh, there's a devotee, simply by seeing him, he's so impressed that he goes down and pays obeisances. That power he has. That's a real Prabhupada says, that's a pure devotee. That's power he has. And if you connect with Krishna, you'll become like that. If we connect with Krishna, even a fool, what's that? Even a fool can become a Shakespeare. Shakespeare? And that I gave example suited to Western world.
Maybe people, because they see a person, they see the qualities, God qualities in the person.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. When you connect with God, you start getting godly qualities. If you are with fools, you become fool. If you are with wise people, you become wise. If you are with God, you become godly. Yeah, you become godly. You become godly. That's how it goes. Simple. So that is a test of devotion. If our devotion is proper and sincere, we will start getting godly qualities. And if you want to know what are godly qualities, go and read 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 16th and 13th. That gives a list of godly qualities. And then you can see, okay, how many qualities you are getting. This quality. 16th and 13th, yeah. Right in the beginning. Those qualities are there. So you get godly qualities. Eka Vivikta Sharno. And then Narad Muni advises Bhikshur. He says, always beg. Now here begging doesn't mean you go to door and beg, You can't do that. Especially in America, you can't do that. Especially in Texas, you can't do. If you do, they'll shoot you. Texas, ting ting, okay. They have all guns there. So you can't do that. So begging here means, Prabhupada says, I have come up with a system of begging. And that is book distribution. One of the ways. So we go and give Gita to them or some book. And I say, okay, this is a book, please take it. That's one way to do that. And so another way to understand begging is, that whenever you take food, you should eat. You should not eat food, but you should accept it. That's how we say honor prasad. Honor it. The whole spirit of eating is accepting it and not taking it. Now, there's a difference between that. Actually, there was one devotee at Bhaktivedanta's time. Actually, so he was eating food. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Guru of Prabhupada, he was eating food, and Bhaktisiddhanta, he came and he saw him. He was like eating, like Bengalis. You know Bengalis? Bengalis, when they eat, like it's a mountain of rice. Bengalis in India, when they eat, there's a mountain of rice they make so big plate and then they eat. So Bhaktisiddhanta was walking, he saw and he didn't say anything. So one devotee, actually his right hand, what was his name? I forgot. Yeah. He was sitting there. Sundaranand Vidya Vinod. He was sitting with him. One other devotee, great devotee. And he said to him, you see, are you eating food or food is eating you? He could really understand and he became really wild and he complained to Bhaktisiddhanta. And he said, you see, your devotees are telling me like that. And Bhaktisiddhanta wrote to him back letter. And he said, okay. And he told him it will take lifetimes for you to understand what he told you. It will take lifetimes to understand. So food. So that's we don't really need to beg, but we should have spirit of begging. The spirit of begging is accepting and not taking. Whatever you get, accept it and praise God for that. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he used to honor prasad, you know what he used to think in his mind? In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, when he used to honor prasad, he used to say a prayer, and that prayer means, oh my Krishna, this prasad is tasting so nice. Why? I'm sure that your lips have touched this food. Lips. And that's why it's tasting so nice. That is the whole consciousness when you eat prasad. Because if you eat prasad without proper consciousness, then it's not prasad for you. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If we eat prasad in the spirit of enjoyment, we are like Ravan who is trying to steal Sita. That's all. We might be eating prasad, but then it doesn't work. So that whole spirit goes with that. That's the idea of begging. That's the idea of begging there. If you understand the spirit, you don't really need to go and beg. So beg and bhaksha mit ashana. So Narada Muni says, okay, fine, you beg and you have this spirit, but then how to develop this spirit of accepting and not taking is by serving devotees. When we serve devotees, then we get that spirit of accepting praises, of accepting criticisms. Sometimes people criticize when you're together, but no problem. If honor is our guest, even criticisms are also our guest. They are guests, by the way. We think if somebody criticizes us, we become disturbed, but actually it's not that. Criticism helps you to advance, actually. It helps you it makes you strong. It helps you to know your faults. In that spirit. So when you live with people, communal society, actually, that's a problem in modern society. Everybody is living alone, so they don't know how to interact with people. And especially at large, this is due to machine culture. Actually, I'm writing a book, Man versus Machine. Man versus Machine. I finished that, and the whole idea of that book is this machine culture, not machines, but machine culture has, because of that, we have lost the ability to interact with people. And when we start interacting with people, we get frightened whether the relationship will go on or not go on. You see, we can't really figure it out, and then that's why people are having all these relationship problems. Even if we want to contact somebody, we'll contact through an interface of machine. Facebook, WhatsApp. Even if that person is sitting in the next room, we'll give a WhatsApp. We don't have a small courtesy to go and speak to him.
Even in the same room.
Huh?
Even in the same room.
Even in the same room? It's like that. That's pretty bad. So the whole logic is you save time. Well, you save time at the expense of losing your soul. What do you do with that? So that you lose that virtues, courtesy and all those. So that's bhakshyam mitashana. Then Narada Muni says bhakshyam means you serve devotees and get that attitude of humbleness, courtesy. We have to have that if we want to. Prabhupada says, if you want to be with Krishna, you must be a gentleman. Because Krishna doesn't like crooks. He doesn't like it. Because he's a perfect gentleman and he likes to associate with those who are gentlemen, isn't it? That's all. We like to associate with people like us, isn't it? Who are nice. We don't like to associate with people who are bad, because we lead a okay life. And that is why it is said in scriptures, friendship is among equals. Always. A king will not make friends with a beggar. He doesn't do that. He might help him. He might be compassionate. But friendship is among equals. If you want to make Krishna your friend, and Krishna is inviting, become my friend, we have to become equal to him in qualities. Not in quantity, but in quality we have to become like him. Then he says, okay, now you're my friend. So that much we have to do. And he's giving advice for that, how to do. And if we try to do this, then we become like him. If we become like him, Krishna makes us his friend, and then if Krishna is your friend, he will do the job for you. You don't need to control your mind. He will control it for you. That's how we control the mind. That's all. Finish. So controlling mind is problem. Okay, Krishna says become my friend and I'll control it for you. But there is a qualification for that, to becoming my friend. And this is the qualification. All these qualities and devotion we need. Yeah, okay. So all these qualities, we need these qualities and virtues in our life and devotion. Just like I was telling yesterday, we need 3 things to become qualified to be related to Him. That is virtues. Virtues? Am I pronouncing properly?
Virtues. V-I-R-T-U-E-S.
Yeah, virtues. Yeah, virtues. And then another thing you need, happiness.
Happiness.
Yeah, happiness is a qualification, by the way. To be
enthusiastic.
Yeah, enthusiastic.
Happiness, because the happiness have degree.
Yeah, as much as happiness you can be. But Krishna doesn't like frustrated people. Krishna doesn't like depressed people. That is why devotees never become depressed. Because Krishna doesn't like that. Why should I become? Whatever Krishna doesn't like, that I'll not do. That's love. So devotees will never become distressed, never become disturbed, never becoming anxious in their life, because Krishna doesn't like that. Okay, Krishna, if you don't like, fine, I'll not be like. So that's so happiness, and the third thing is knowledge of God. That's the qualification. Brahmbhuta prasannatma, shoshati nakangsh. That's the qualification, prasannatma. And that is why any devotee who is becoming depressed, that means he doesn't really understand what's love all about. Love is all about fulfilling the desires of beloved, and our beloved doesn't want us to be depressed. How can we be depressed? Because if we become depressed, he becomes depressed. Isn't it? If children become depressed, parents become depressed. So there's no question. Prabhupada says in one of his lecture, there's no question of depression and disturbance in devotion. No question. Devotee is always undisturbed in all circumstances.
Okay, the word virtue again, because they have degree of virtues again. Please explain more.
Virtues?
Yeah, virtues.
Virtues is, Gita defines, Gita gives a list of virtues. Gita gives a list of virtues. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, humbleness, simplicity, truthfulness. These are virtues. We should try to cultivate in us. Actually, the whole process of any spirituality is to develop these virtues in our soul. The more the virtues, the more you become qualified to actually associate with God. Because without virtues, it's impossible to associate with Him. And that's, technically it's called Brahmanical qualities. Those qualities we must have. So that's a wealth. But that comes by devotion. There is no other way. You can't have real virtues without connecting to God. It's impossible. You can't concoct it. It has to be gifted to you by God, real virtues. So that's what Narad Muni advises, and then we can control our mind. Any questions, any other comments?
I think the easiest way to control the mind is just chant Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay. If that's the way, but then if that's the only way, why will we have lecture and why will we have so many works? Prabhupada would have just written one page, chant Hare Krishna, be happy. You're right, but then the problem with that is that's the easiest way, you're right, but the application is very difficult. Yeah, we can't chant, you can tongue, but mind. No, that's the problem. Srila Prabhupada says in one of his lecture, the process is very easy, but the application is difficult. How do you do that? It is said that when we chant Hare Krishna, our tongue, our mind, our intelligence and our soul should be together. And then it goes to Krishna. Otherwise it's blocked in between by other forces. It's blocked. It doesn't reach Krishna. That's called trance. A trance, samadhi. And that's the aim. Prabhupada says that's the aim. So what do you do? So that's a practice. You see if you have a guitar, you have played guitar? And anybody have played guitar, no? You have seen guitar, no? So you have like 4 strings in that. So you have to play all 4 strings properly, then the music comes. If you just play one, ting ting, nothing happens. So similarly, if you want music of love in your life, then you should play all strings, not just tongue. You have to play tongue, you have to play mind, you have to play intelligence, and you have to play soul together. And then there is music of love, otherwise it doesn't happen. So it's not that easy.
With practice.
Yeah, with practice and knowledge. You're right. With practice and knowledge. Yeah. That's why we are discussing so many things, so that our confusions get solved and we can advance. Because illusion is very tricky. Maya is tricky. Anyway.
Thank you. Nice class. And yes, some question. More than Jnana, Vijnana is more important.
Yeah, that's true.
What is that?
Jnana, he means only knowledge. By putting it into practice, Jnana means knowledge.
Holy knowledge.
Knowledge.
Oh, knowledge.
But practicing the knowledge is Vijnana.
Yeah.
So that is more important. That's right.
Yeah. We want to ask Lucifer. Yeah. What's her name? I remember that.
I can go with
Okay.
practice, like we were saying, I refer to
Okay,
that.
fine. Okay, what's the question?
If we practice this, then the feeling will come, right?
Yeah.
And because you mentioned yesterday even about the life necessity, like the food and exercise and
Okay.
sleep,
Okay.
right?
So
that's practice, right? Like that's more physical. I mean, we godly too, but sometimes when we pray physically too, we feel more insight.
Okay. Yeah.
And I wonder, because the practice, you mentioned that.
What's the question? I can't figure it out.
Like the things, the routine we do, and physically, and if those are associated with knowledge.
Yeah. So.
Then
there is effect.
Yes.
Yeah, that is effect. Yeah. But even if you do without knowledge, start doing, then we start getting the knowledge in association of devotees. We start understanding what it is about. But we need association of devotees to figure it out. That's how it goes. I don't know if that's your question. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much to all of you.
What time do you leave tomorrow?
I leave around 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So tomorrow morning also Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Tomorrow also I'll speak.
Tonight?
Tonight also evening 7 to 8.
Oh, you, so yesterday night you were there, no? Isn't it?
Can you say that again?
Oh, yesterday night you were there.
I was here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.